Hello, and welcome to Circulating Board Games presented by the North Dakota State Library. I'm excited to see you all here. Board games are something that's been a passion for me personally. My name is Laura Risseby. I'm the Teen Programming Coordinator for Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library in Bismarck, North Dakota. I've loved board games my whole life. My family is a big board game family. So when I found that other libraries circulated board games, I thought, why not? This is a great thing. It brings people together. I'm lucky that I work in a library that allows us to be creative and gives us the chance to explore different collections like this. I'm happy to share what I've learned over the past year or so. If you have any questions, you can definitely type them in the chat. Eric is here with me. He's our tech support. So if you're also having problems, you can definitely say something to him and he'll try to get you help. But it's 1:30, so I think we'll get started. Thank you all for coming again, and we'll get started. So this is me, Laura Risseby. I'm the Team Programming Coordinator at Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library. I've been an avid reader from laundry basket age, I guess. But in addition to books, I have loved libraries my whole life. I started going to our library here in Bismarck, the Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library, from a very young age. But I also have always loved the community that libraries bring. I did not know I wanted to go into libraries until much later in life. So once that happened, I haven't left. I started working at a circulation desk, and now I'm lucky enough to run our teen programming. And I love what our library is able to do for our community and the way that we're able to reach a wide variety of people. So I'm excited to share this as another way to reach your patrons. Why board games? Board games do have a lot of benefits. I have teens in our teen center every day that just sit on their phones. They sit behind a screen, they chat with people online, and while that is fine, I'm an avid gamer. I love playing with people from across the world. It's really important for us to play face-to-face, to have that connection with others. My family, as I said, is a huge board game family. I also have friends that love board games. We have board game nights. It's just great to be able to have that personal connection and to talk and to play, and I absolutely love it. So I wanted to find a way to share it with more people in our community. I do run board game nights for teens, which is great. They get off their phones, they sit, they chat, they get a chance to meet other teens who they might not have met before. So I am a huge, huge lover of board games. I like to play games, but it turns out that they're good for you. We all know that little kids, it's great for them to be able to play games. You get to practice deductive reasoning, you learn reading, there's the ability for them to concentrate. You can have games that will teach them their fine motor skills. But a huge thing for it too is that games now are evolving so that it's not just Candyland and Chutes and Ladders and games of luck, but they also have games that are teaching kids more and more actual skills that they can then apply in school and in the real world. Plus, just like reading, that time spent with their parents, with their family, with their friends, is really great for them in their development. It's also great for adults. There is an article in the Ipswich Star that I had kind of read about. It discussed how board games can be used by adults to get them out of the house, to fight their loneliness, especially in groups like retirement communities. It can be absolutely amazing for them to just get out, sit, play a game of cribbage, play some dominoes, anything like that, to give them that one-on-one connection again with somebody is absolutely great. Here in Bismarck, North Dakota, we have the Fun Club. They host a weekly board game night at one of our local Paneras. It's absolutely awesome. They welcome almost anyone, well, they welcome anyone who wants to come and play. It's a family board game, and it brings all sorts of people together. Our Bismarck Fun Group has people who have just moved to the area. It has new Americans. They have all sorts of people that get together and play these games together. We decided that as part of our offering board games was a huge thing to let everyone be able to sit down, play games, have that connection. And that's one of the biggest things for me with our collection. I want to talk to you a little bit about types of games. If you're not huge into board games, this could be helpful for determining what kinds of games you're looking at. The first kind that I want to talk about is Euro games. These are the big ones right now that most people play. They're not so much your classic games based on luck. It's more about strategizing. Some of the most popular ones, Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, Catan or Settlers of Catan. Something else that's really big with these is that in most of these games, everybody continues to play until the end of the game, so nobody gets knocked out early and then can't continue to play. In all of these games, everybody's in until the very last card has been played or until somebody does win. So these are really popular now. Most people who maybe haven't even played a lot of board games have probably heard of Ticket to Ride or Catan. They are getting to be really huge across America. Card game or deck building games. So these are usually where you want to construct a deck or a hand of cards. They usually don't have many pieces other than cards. Some of those might be Dominion. That's one with a lot of cards, a big strategy game. Sushi Go Party is a little more fun and lighthearted, where you are trying to collect different versions from a takeout menu. And Seven Wonders is another one that's one of the highest rated games right now. It has a lot of great gameplay with it. That one has a little bit more to it than just cards, but it's still a really great deck building game. Party games are what it sounds like. Everyone participates either on their own or in a team. It's meant for large groups of people. Some versions would be telestrations, which is just like paper telephone that my friends used to play as a kid. Apples to Apples is one that is really well known now and comes in a lot of different varieties. And Code Names is another one now that's been rising through the ranks. They have code names as far as like Codename Pictures, Codename Harry Potter, Codenames Dictionary or Disney. That's a great one for families to play too. Adventure RPG games, you usually play as a single character, like an individual that's going to grow and change throughout the course of play. You'll gain new skills or new items to play, but you stay that character through the game. Time Stories is a classic one of that. It's about time travelers. Star Wars Imperial Assault takes the classic Star Wars characters and you play as them throughout the game. And one of my favorite games, Betrayal at the House on the Hill, which is a B-movie game in which you play either as the mad scientist or the mystic seer or the dumb jock and try to escape from a house that has turned against you. Cooperative games are becoming more and more popular. Obviously, you all work together as a group to achieve something. They even make these now for little kids. They're becoming more popular with that age group to teach them more about working together, and they're not being so much of me against you, but everybody either wins or loses together. Pandemic is probably one of the most well-known ones, but they even make Outfoxed, which is for kids. You can almost see on the picture there, it's for ages 5+. And the Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and now Forbidden Sky from Game Right are a really great one as well. But they are even working this cooperative idea. We recently got Hi-Ho Cherry-O for our library. They now have a cooperative version of that within the game itself, where the kids work together to collect all the cherries before the birds get them. Escape room games are kind of a trendy thing right now. This is like your escape room that you would go to where you have to solve clues and find different riddles and go through puzzles in order to escape a room to solve the mystery. They're a lot of fun for a large group of people, but as I learned when I bought some for our library, be careful. because some of them are playable only once because you have to destroy a box or rip up a sheet of paper to find something. Escape the room games on the left side of your screen, and the middle one, Unlock. Those are both great ones that don't require you to destroy. They're playable time after time. The one on the far right, Exit the Game. They have a large collection as well. That's the one where you had to destroy something in order to play. So we weren't able to put that out in our collection. But the other two, we have multiple versions of the Unlock game, and we also have both of the Escape the Rooms, and they're really popular with our patrons. War games, it's what it sounds like. It's Risk, it's games that deal with military operations. It's strategizing against your opponent. Stratego is one of my favorite classics. Twilight Struggle is one of the highest rated games. And then you have the classic series of Axis and Allies, which these are really great games. They do have a lot of pieces usually with them, just because you have all of the different soldiers and regiments and everything, but they can be really great games. And people who are into these kind of games are really into these kind of games. They do take a long time to play, but they can be a little more expensive. So it can be nice to offer these for your patrons if this is something they're interested in. Legacy games are one that you'll want to be aware of. These are games that change as you play them. Usually it involves putting stickers on the board or tearing things up, opening packages. So these are games that are playable only once for the storyline, and then you do have a board at the end that you can play with again and again, but you can really only play through that storyline once, so I don't recommend these for libraries. I like to put it out there though, so just in case you are looking, they usually are rated really highly. They are great games, but not great games for checkout. Pandemic Legacy, it's just like the Pandemic cooperative game, except for this one has a specific story mode that you play through. Gloomhaven is one of the highest rated board games right now that is out there. It is an amazing game, but it's a legacy game. And Charterstone is one that doesn't look at first like it's a legacy game, but it is. A lot of the times they'll have legacy on the cover. It'll say somewhere that it is a legacy game. Otherwise, you can do some research. I like going to boardgamegeek.com. It's a wonderful resource for finding what are highly rated games, what games are legacy games, or asking questions from people who have the game and who know what it's all about. And finally, good old classic games. Some of our most popular games in our library are the classic games from your childhood and mine. Mousetrap is one of our most popular games. Battleship, Yahtzee, Clue. I wasn't sure about how well these would circulate, but a huge thing for these is a lot of people might not own them anymore. I know that I personally don't. My parents might have a couple of copies of these. But especially games, if you do serve younger children in your libraries, these can be great. Parents have told me that they absolutely love being able to check out Candyland for a week, because then Candyland goes back at the end of the week and you're not stuck playing it for a month. Guess Who is another one that's been really popular. So sometimes parents like it for the fact that they get a little break from different games. But it's also a great way for your patrons to be able to try games that they might not have before, or try games before they buy them, to make sure that their kids are going to like them, to make sure that it's not too difficult. But these are some of our most popular games. So in our collection at the library, most of our games were purchased with a grant from the Bismarck Library Foundation. They were kind enough to start our collection for us. We currently have 197 games in our collection. It's way more than I thought it would be, but they've been really popular. We started our collection at the very end of March in 2018, so we've been up for just over a year, and it is amazing the feedback we've gotten. We do have, our collection contains games for all ages and interests. We are a public library, So we have a very flourishing children's programming department at our library. So we do have a lot of families coming in. So I wanted to make sure that I had games for them. But we do also have, I wanted to have strategy games, or have games for people who might be interested in moving into more complex or strategy-based games. All of our games are available for checkout at our library, and they have to be returned to our circulation desk. Patrons can have 2 games per card, and they get a checkout time of 1 week. We do allow 2 renewals. That's what it is on most of our items, as long as there are no requests on the item. We do not interlibrary loan our games, just due to having to check in and board games getting damaged. We also ask that they don't return them in our book drop. We've had a couple go through there. Jenga went through our book drop, and we had to desperately search for pieces because the Jenga game came out of its out of the box. It was a really long afternoon that day. So that's why we asked them that they just return them to our desk. We'll go over more what happens when they get returned. I know a lot of people had questions about counting pieces, about missing pieces, and we'll go over that in a little bit. I want to talk about where we got our games. So we got ours from local game stores. We have 2 here in Bismarck, North Dakota, Parallax Computers and Games and Comic Realms. You can also buy them online. I get a lot of mine on Amazon when there's a sale. I get notified about board game sales, so sometimes I'll buy them there. Or coolstuffinc.com is a great resource. They don't charge the manufacturer's suggested price. They a lot of the times will have deals, and they ship pretty much anywhere. I have gotten a lot of our games from there. The place that most of our games came from are donations. So we ask for donations from patrons and from staff. I know that I had a handful of games that I bought and I thought that I was going to love, and they're just not the kind of game that my friends and I like to play. An example would be the Doctor Who card game. I love Doctor Who. I love everything about Doctor Who. Doctor Who card game, not exactly what we like to do when we play, whereas it's really popular with our patrons. So that can be a great way to get games. And a huge one is board game companies. That is where we got most of our games from. I belong to a Facebook group called the League of Librarian Gamers. It's the ALA Games and Gaming Roundtable discussion group. They did a lot of it and have a great living document of board game companies to contact, ask for donations. I contacted over 20 companies and I received so many games. This is how our game collection really exploded. I was expecting 50 games by the end of our first year, and we had so many more, and our patrons really appreciated the variety. So as Maddie, I contacted. They sent 2 different card games, Red 7, and we didn't play test this at all. Total value of $22. Brotherwise sent Boss Monster. Taste Room Minstrel sent Harbor. Game Right sent a bunch. Peaceable Kingdom. Daily Magic Games. And as you can see, we got a lot of games. Most of these were sent completely free of charge. They did not require me to pay postage or anything. The only exception to that is Steve Jackson Games. They asked that I paid $25 for shipping and handling, which was really easy to do over PayPal. But I ended up getting $250.35 worth of games for $25. The only other one that is a little bit different on here is Looney Labs. Looney Labs sent ours for our Comic-Con gaming, which is now called BizCon. We have a library Comic-Con called BizCon here in Bismarck. It's been growing for the last 3 years. They will send stuff for events, not so much for collections. But as you can see, this just took me a little bit of time. I composed a basic letter, told them what we were doing, what our goals were. For us here in North Dakota, I was doing this in the winter, so I did say, it's snowing here right now. It's great for families to have an option to play indoors. And board game companies came out and they gave me a ton of stuff. I will also say Steve Jackson Game has Since then, they sent another bunch of donations. They're a great company to work with, and they really appreciate libraries and librarians and what we do. So in case you were wondering, that is the total, $1,224.59 worth of board games that I got for $25. It is well worth it to ask them. Some of them will, I know Peaceable Kingdom requires that you send something on your letterhead, just so that they can denote that it was a donation for a nonprofit. But for the most part, these groups, they want their games to get out there. They want people to be able to enjoy them, and they're really easy to work with. So I would definitely recommend, if this is something you're thinking about, write to companies. Figure out what kind of games you're looking for. This is, again, where BoardGameGeek.com can come in handy, so you can see publishers of games and contact those kinds of places. But I was blown away by how many games we got donated to us. I want to talk a little bit about processing games. So I process all of my games before I send them back to be cataloged. Here you will see, this is just done in Word with 2 columns. Sparkle Kitty and Pandemic are 2 of our games we have there. We do include the little note, in order for other patrons to enjoy this game, please ensure all individual pieces are returned. Loss of pieces will incur a replacement charge. That's not always true. Sometimes with lost pieces, we won't charge. We always give them a chance to bring it back. But I always put this in so that people know exactly what's supposed to be in that box. I also, if you look on the right-hand side with Pandemic, I do mark a lot of the times my bags, bag 1, bag 2. That helps them too when they're going through, if they're not exactly sure what an infection rate marker is when it comes up in the game and they can't figure it out. They know that it's one of them in bag 7, so it makes it a little bit easier for them. So I always include this on top of our rule books. Our rule books, I do either download PDFs from the manufacturer's websites, or I scan them myself and print them out, and I laminate them just to extend the wear of these items. This is an old picture of what my collection of board game rules, inserts, anything that went with the game that I didn't put in there, as well as extra pieces. This is from a long time ago, because it has now grown to be 2 boxes, and it is extremely full of stuff and a lot of extra pieces from games that were donated. I've taken pieces if we already have the game itself and don't need to replace it. But I just kind of keep this for my own personal record of what came with the game, so that if we were to ever withdraw it from the collection and put it, let's say, for sale in our book sale, I would be able to include the original stuff with it and not my copies. After cataloging, which we'll go over soon, we put on stickers, tattle tape, spine labels, and tape the corners for reinforcement. So this is one of our popular games, Yeti and My Spaghetti. You'll see that we, in the lower left-hand corner, board game, that is our call number for them, board game, and then usually the first word of the title, so board game Yeti. We do put a sticker with our information, the Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library, with our address and stuff, and then a sticker that does say, please return to the Bismarck Public Library checkout desk. Do not return in book drops or to another library. This will result in a $5 fee on the patron's account. And we try to have our Circ staff tell patrons if they haven't checked one out before. They ask, have you checked out a board game? And then they remind them that they have to be returned to our desk. On the back, the one in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see, again, it just has our information on it, and then it also says the barcode number. That is partially just to cover up the tattle tape that we use. So we tattle tape all of our games for security, and then that way, our staff knows where to look to desensitize them, but also we haven't had any board games go missing. They're pretty big, but this is just a way for us to kind of cover up that tattle tape strip. The other thing I'll point out is in this picture, You'll see the yellow bands on there. Those are corner-to-corner rubber bands. They work great. I have since switched to just elastic corners to keep my boxes shut, or elastic on the corners. I just buy sewing elastic. It's much more cost effective for us now that we have so many games. But otherwise, these corner-to-corner bands work great. It's $4 for 3 of them. For us, they were just getting ratty way too fast for the amount of circulation we have with our board game. So I switched to a cheaper alternative, but these could work great for you too. All right, cataloging. Now this is where I'm going to go through. June Presler is our super cataloger, and she does amazing work with these. If you have questions that I'm unable to answer, my information will be here at the end, and you can definitely email those questions to me, and I can get you in contact with June. She has really taken this on, and I am so thankful for her. I also had to stop by before I came here to just double check and make sure I understood. I am not a cataloger, so this can be sometimes confusing for me. One of my favorite things that she did is she made an alternative in-house title for all of our collection to start with board game, so that if somebody were to search alphabetically under title for board game, it would pop up with every single board game that we own. This is also really handy for me. A lot of the time I go in and I highlight every single board game and pull it up so that I can see the record, so I can see stats on them, so I can see, you know, if one's been missing for a long time or if there are ones with holds on them that I need to get processed and get out quicker. But so this is kind of a screenshot of just what I see when I look into it. For her, this is from OCLC. This is for a game Quartex she found. I asked her what she thought would be most helpful, and these are the things she came up with. So all of these board games are always listed as a visual material. So you can kind of see, this is what first pops up for her when she will find one. And then the record on the left is what was downloaded from OCLC, and the record on the right is our final record with some of the changes that she made. So some of those changes are that alternative title, the 092, or the 092, I'm sorry, that's our call number. So our call numbers, remember, our board game and then the title of the game. So we have that. And then this board game Quartex under 246 is the alternate title. That's something we just leave in-house. It's only available on our record. She doesn't change the actual record in OCLC, but this way it makes it easy for me to find. She adds that additional statement of board game, just to make it easy to find again in our system. All the way down at the bottom there, 500, that's just a note, a mind-bending shape-building tile game was something else that was on the title cover of the box. So she wanted to add that to make it, to kind of complete the record. Catalogers seem to be completionists. They want it all to be there. So she added that in. And then the subject heading for these in our library is board games, so that you can search by that as well. So we have that in there. And then this is the LC genre. She includes that on there. It's under puzzles and games. And finally, this is our item record information. So BBDG is our collection code, and then next is BPL. It's located at our library. It's got our barcode in there, it's got the price in there, so that's just the actual item record information. This next one is the constant data page. So she has made one just for our board game, so that when she brings it up and wants to put in that constant data, this is what comes up so that she can fill it in quite easily. She does amazing work. Again, if you have questions on this, this is where I had some of my biggest questions when I started my collection. Please feel free to contact me and I will pass the information on to her and we'll try to find answers for you. But this is where the magic happens. I leave them on her desk and then she magically returns them to me and they are all ready to go. I really appreciate her. And then this would be the final record, what you would see. We use Horizon. So this is what you would see in Horizon when looking at the game itself. So you can see the subject in their board game, genre board games, She does that alternate title of board game, Cortex, so that I can find it much easier. But this is what happens. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about, success. I like talking about successes. So these are some of the Facebook comments we've received when we post about new games, or we've had people contact us about our games. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback from our community. Sometimes they'll recommend games to us. We try to buy them a lot of the times, just so that they know they're being heard, and your patrons will have ideas about what games would be popular. People have loved them here in North Dakota. A lot of people go camping. We have a lot of games that would be great. Not a lot of pieces, but still a lot of fun to take on camping trips. A fun concept. We are loving this. And then someone told us that Upwards is awesome. We are working on getting Upwards for that patron. We do try to get some of the newer board games too. So you'll see somebody said, I'm impressed to see Stuffed Fables so soon after the game's release date. People have really had a positive reaction to this collection. And a lot of people don't, when they find out that we have board games for checkout, they're just absolutely flabbergasted and they love the idea. So counting pieces. This is our return shelf. So after our staff checks it in, they check it in under damage mode so that it goes back on the shelf to be counted. Some people don't count their games. They use a scale. You can get a very delicate scale that will read, to the ounce whether or not, and then you'll be able to tell if something's missing. And then that's the only time they open them up. Some groups don't count at all, and they just rely on patrons to tell them if something's missing. For us, we count. To start, it was just going to be me because I didn't expect to have more than 40 games. I now have a wonderful group of people from our circulation staff who, when they have time, they will help me count the pieces. We also have volunteers who will count pieces for us. In some of the games, we don't count all of the pieces. We have some games you don't have to have all of the pieces there, so we're not going to count them all. Some games you do have to count all of the pieces to make sure. The other thing that I like about counting pieces, that way too, I put the game back correctly in the box so that it looks nice, so that the next person who opens it up doesn't have cards all over the place and all of the pieces just jumbled in the box. That way it makes it a little bit nicer for the next person. These are my cheat sheets. They are done in PowerPoint, and then I just print them off on note cards, which then go on a binder ring that we have. So this one, Apples to Apples, no counting. They just open it up and make sure that there's a stack of green cards and a bunch of stacks of red cards, and that's all there is to it. Apples to Apples, if one card goes missing, it doesn't really matter. The Game of Life, count everything except the money. And the little people pieces. I don't care about the little people pieces. But it also doesn't matter how much money there is in the game. You can make it work. So they count, they count the cards that come with it. They count the cars. They count those kind of things. In Monopoly, it's the same. You don't have to count the money, but there do have to be the property pieces. There do have to be your playing pieces, the community chest cards, your houses and hotels. It does matter how many you have. So we do count those. Now for Pandemic, you need every single piece that's in that game. If you are missing a piece, it's not going to work. So that's with some of those Euro games or some of those games like that. They do require all of their pieces to be there, and it does really make a difference if you're missing some. This is that sheet that I showed you that goes on the top of our instructions. This also helps people count because they can look and they can say, if they're counting Exploding Kittens, okay, it should have 122 cards and the rules, and that's it. Monopoly Gamer has 10 character pieces, 10 character cards, and you just kind of tick your way down the list, counting everything in the box. So this helps them as well. So they'll look and see, in Monopoly Gamer, they need to count everything except for the coins, because the coins, it doesn't really matter how many coins there are. So they'll count everything except for the coins. So this also just kind of helps them, give them a base of what's in the game so they know what they're looking for. Some of my tips and tricks. This is from June, our cataloger. She says to search for the ISSN or the SN when looking for games in Odin or WorldCat. And then she goes by title. She also said that it's really helpful to search by publisher at times. Sometimes you can find the games by that way too. But what about the missing pieces? So if you're counting the pieces, or even if you're weighing it and you find that there's pieces missing, what do you do? Well, only probably I'd say about 95% of the time games come back. Are they actually missing pieces? For those 5%, we call and we ask the patrons to look for the pieces. And I would say 3/4 of the time they're able to find it. You know, it was the missing piece from Enchanted Disney Princess Cupcake Party Game. They were missing Snow White or Cinderella's shoe for the top of one of the cupcakes. A lot of the times they can find that piece. If they come back and they say that they can't find it, a lot of board game companies will send you free replacement pieces if you explain the situation. Or some companies have replacement pieces for sale on their websites, or there are places that you can buy generic meeples, the little wooden people or trains, or there's a lot of places to buy them online, or you can print your own. If you're lucky to have a 3D printer. We have a 3D printer at our library. Somebody lost the rope in Clue. I gave them a few weeks to find it, and when they didn't, I 3D printed another rope and put it in the box. So you can absolutely do that. If you search online for game pieces, you will find that there are a lot of patterns out there that you can use your own printer for. I have never actually had to buy any replacement pieces from companies. Your companies, though, like Hasbro or Mattel, some of the big companies, they will not replace pieces for free. They won't even respond to your email, sadly. But for Ticket to Ride, for Catan, for a lot of those other games, for Wonder Forge and Ravensburger, there are some of the great kids companies. So if you're having kids games, the other day, somebody had lost 2 pieces to Disney's Villainous, which is a great game. And I emailed them, and they sent me an entire set of every piece from the game so that I would have extra sets. They're really great companies to work with. A lot of them even have forms that you just fill out online. If you go to their website and go to contact us, they'll have a section for missing or replacement pieces. And if you just explain you're a library, somebody accidentally lost one, they'll get it to you, no charge. I'm constantly getting teeny tiny packages in my mailbox of a road from Settlers of Catan, or, you know, just little replacement pieces. So they're great to work with. So if your main concern is those missing pieces, Monopoly is not going to replace a piece for you. They're just not. Milton Bradley will not let you have a new piece. But another place that you can look is game donations. A week after I printed my own rope for Clue, somebody donated Clue. So while I couldn't use a lot of the pieces because it's an older version, so it's not up to date for ours, I did get a new rope piece, but I had already printed one, so I'm keeping that one in there. But now I have a whole set of weapons for later if I need them. So that can be somewhere too that you can get extra pieces. So if missing pieces are the biggest hang up, there are so many solutions for that I wouldn't worry too much about it. And finally, my Circ stats. We've had our collection of games for just over 15 months, and we've had over 3,250 checkouts for our game collection. These are our most, these are the ones that are most popular. You will notice that it is a lot of kids games. Labyrinth, Yeti and My Spaghetti, Sorry, Ice Cool, Sleeping Queens, Outfox, Jenga, Connect 4, Animal Upon Animal, Rhino Hero, Candyland, Disney Princess Enchanted Cupcake Party Game, and Pickles to Penguins are all focused on kids. A lot of them are family games, but kids games are definitely the ones that are most popular. We do have a very active, as I said, families are very active in our library, but we do also have Exploding Kittens is more of a teen to adult game. Those ones are still popular, and they do still get the checkouts, but these are just my stats from a few weeks ago. So that's kind of what I've learned about circulating board games. It's been a great process. I've absolutely loved it. I'm so happy that they are so popular with our patrons. I hope that you've maybe learned a few things that you could take to your libraries. I'm also going to include, this is my information here. My email address is on there, lricipe@bismarcklibrary.org. So if you have to contact me with questions. Did we have any questions from the chat?
Yes. Want to go through?
Yes.
All right. The first is the game list going to be available after the presentation?
The game list.
Yeah, so like the games that you mentioned when you were going through the different
Oh, yes, absolutely. That game list, I believe that each of you will be receiving a copy of the slides. So you will get all of that information, including the information of the game companies that I contacted. Those are ones that I've worked with, and I can tell you that they're great to work with. There's others that I've contacted that, they've gotten back to me since then. They're not included on my list here, but yeah, I will get you guys a copy of this.
What about chess?
Oh, chess. We did have chess in circulation. We had gotten a donation of a 10-in-1 classic game set. So it had chess, checkers, cribbage, Mancala, a bunch of them. And it was really popular. It sadly has gone lost since then. Somebody just never brought it back. But I am looking for a replacement chess piece or chess game to put into circulation. That's one though that we do get a lot of donations of chess. So I'll probably pick one that's in a good shape and put it in. But yes, chess is a great one to circulate.
How do you handle consumable parts of games like Yahtzee scorecards?
That is a great question too. Consumable parts of games, Yahtzee scorecards. As a matter of fact, I just reordered Yahtzee scorecards this week. We were running low. I found them for $5 on Amazon. That's the first time I've had to order them. As far as the clue sheets, I emailed, I think it's Hasbro that makes Clue. I emailed their customer service because I could not find clue sheets for sale. And they emailed me a file and told me that I could make my own copies. And so for those, I just print them double-sided on note cards and we put them in our boxes. But most places will sell replacements or will tell you that you can make your own.
Do you shelve games differently based on their age appropriateness?
We currently have all of our games in one section. Our games are, I try to put the more, I don't want to say adult games, but the games for older folks, the more complex games on the top shelves. We do keep them facing out for the most part. I always laugh because people come and look at our game collection and they're like, I thought you had more games than this. Yeah, they're all checked out. We have two separate areas. We have a front area with lower shelving that is where our new items go. I try to put new board games out there as well as a lot of our children's games right at their eye level. So that's about the only difference in where we keep them. I try to put a lot of kids' games up front, but otherwise, it's really just where they fit and where we can make them visible.
I'd love a recommended starter or core list of games.
Sure. That is something that I can include. I would definitely, depending on your demographics, if you're serving mostly families, to be honest, those classic games you remember from childhood. And when I put together my list to submit to our foundation for approval for the money that they had donated, now I buy the games based on my own criteria. But when I went to them, I actually just polled our staff and asked them what games they remembered from their childhood. So if you're serving mostly families, to be honest, Guess Who, Sorry, Candyland, it's great to have a general board game collection like we did before with the 10 basic board games in one. But a lot of them would be your classic games. And then for, if you're looking for some more advanced games, Pandemic's a great one, Ticket to Ride or Catan. The nice thing with some of those games too, Ticket to Ride has one called Ticket to Ride First Journey, which we have in our collection, which is to kind of help kids bridge that gap between, more classic style board games of luck and chance and teaching them more about strategy. We actually this week just ordered Catan Junior, so we'll be putting that into our collection. So sometimes those junior games like Monopoly Junior, I hate Monopoly Junior. And maybe it's just because as a kid, my dad literally was a national Monopoly champion. So from the time I was little, I had to play regular Monopoly, and there was no holds barred. Like, my dad would not trade with me for anything. So I find Monopoly Junior insulting. But my first Scythe or my first Catan, those games can be great for bridging that gap.
How much wear and tear do the games go through aside from lost pieces?
How much wear and tear? So I will admit that a lot of our kids' games the boxes are beat up. So we do try to reinforce them. I use book tape for the most part, reinforcing the corners. A handful of our kids' games, the boards, get ripped in there and at the fold, but that's easy enough to tape. I do highly recommend, I think I forgot to mention this, for games like Candyland or things that have a lot of little cards that's meant for kids, I laminate my cards. I just purchased a game called the Family Treasure Hunt game, and it's to help parents facilitate like a scavenger hunt in their house. It looks like a really fun game. We just got it and haven't cataloged it yet, so I haven't gotten any feedback on it, but it had great feedback online. Some of those cards were meant for outside, hiding them in a shed or hiding them with a basketball or a soccer ball. So I laminated all of those too. Anywhere that I can reinforce, or especially on children's games, I really try to. You'll find with some of the games like Ticket to Ride, or we have one called Photosynthesis that's really nice. Those ones are built to last a little bit more. A great company, if you're looking at kids games, is Haba, H-A-B-A. Their pieces are always wooden. Their games cost a little bit more, but it's because they're going to last.
Have you tried role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons?
Role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, we have a Dungeons and Dragons group that meets at our library. We have the rule books in our collection already. We recently purchased them and put them into the collection. I've also emailed some of the smaller publishing houses for RPG games, and a lot of the times they donate to us. So we have those. I am working on putting, there's a great Dungeons and Dragons starter kit that has a mini campaign to kind of get you started, and it has the basic rules, and it's really great for beginners. We currently have it in our teen center for teens to play, but I'm thinking about transferring it over to the collection itself. But that would be another great one, because those books can get really expensive. So if you have somebody who's just starting out, it would be really nice to be able to offer them too.
What is the checkout period for games, and do you allow renewals?
Checkout for games is 1 week for us. We allow 2 games out per card. So people can check out 2 games for 1 week. And then as long as there aren't any requests on the item, as long as nobody else has it on hold, you can renew it twice. Just because that's our basic library-wide renewal policy.
How do you promote them?
We promote our games doing a lot on social media. We also have hosted big board game like family days where we bring out a bunch of our collection, let people try them out, and then tell people that we have it. Social media, though, has been a huge thing for us. I've started that whenever we do get new games, I create a whole Facebook post around it, including a picture of the game box, like I'll do the game cover, and then a description of the game. So people, one of my favorite games didn't get checked out a lot for a while. It's called Cat Lady, in which you have to try to be the best cat lady and collect as many cats as you can, including my favorite, LeVar Burton. So you have to collect the cats, but you also have to collect enough food to be able to feed your cats, or they leave you. This is a real game, and it is phenomenal. I love this game so much. But a lot of people weren't picking it up because it was called Cat Lady. So I did a little post, about this game and a couple of other games that weren't getting the checkouts, and it has increased its checkout. We also have, for adults, Our adult programming coordinator does indoor recess during the winter because it does get cold here, and she puts out games. And she's also doing something this summer called Beat the Heat. We also had our games out during our Hygge hangout, the Scandinavian, nesting phenomenon, I guess I'd call it. But we did a couple of those, and people played board games during that too. So we do some in-house promotion, but a lot of it is through programming or on social media.
And are people hesitant to borrow more obscure games, or are people pretty adventurous?
I would say that a lot of people start with the basic games. Some people start with the games that they know. But we do have people who have said that they are so glad that they tried a different game. I am currently working on putting together some online resources of our gaming collection that'll tell them, if you like Clue, then maybe you'd like to try this game. I also whenever I'm at work, if somebody has questions about games or I see them browsing the game collection like a weird stalker, but it's kind of by my area. So I see them and I run out and I try to talk to them about the games that they're thinking about. But I would say that, some of the more obscure titles, people have started checking out. They're starting to trust more that, I've done my research. I sort of know what's going on with these games. And then that way they have discovered, one of my favorite games is Splendor. I didn't put it in the collection for a little while. And then I decided, you know what, I think we're ready for it. And I've had 3 different people tell me that they've gone and bought it because it's become one of their favorite games, because it's a great strategy game for all ages. So yeah, people branch out. It takes them a little while, but they get there. Oh, perfect. Thank you all so much for coming and joining us today. I thank the North Dakota State Library for having me here today. I love talking about board games. I could do it all day, every day. Again, my information's on here, so if you have any questions in the coming weeks, feel free to email me. If I don't know the answer, I'll find someone who does, and I'll be getting these to somebody here at the State Library, all of the slides, so that they can send them off to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.